Now is the chance to use reliable energy to grow your money with the Dominion Energy Reliability Investment. Our new investment product offers competitive returns, no maintenance fees, and flexible online access to your money. Make the reliable investment in reliable energy. The Dominion Energy Reliability Investment. To find out more, go online to reliabilityinvestment.com. That's reliabilityinvestment.com.
Hi everybody, this is the Cricket Badger podcast.
Each badger marks the track with its own scent.
His black legs are short but very powerful for digging. The name badger probably comes from the French word bêcher, meaning digger.
Yeah, it's gone well. We had Jeffrey Boycott on last week and doing a daily
special 5-hour episode.
He was actually really good. Actually, yeah. I met him a few times when I was working at Yorkshire, and he came on but he was in good form.
Good. I mean, I miss him on TMS, and
yes.
I'm sure I don't know whether the broadcasters do, but I just think his analysis is so sharp.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think he's had it, or do you think it's time to move on, or what do you reckon?
I think he might have had it. I wish he hadn't, because I'm in your camp. I really like him. I think he says what he sees, and he doesn't try and sort of sugarcoat anything. If you think somebody's done badly or think somebody's done brilliantly, he says it as it is. And I think when people take that attitude, if you're listening to somebody saying, "Oh, what a wonderful innings," but they say that about everybody, it kind of dilutes it a little bit, don't you? But when Jeffrey gives compliments, it matters, doesn't it?
Sure, no, and he's not in any camp, in any pocket. There doesn't seem to be any. He's not representing any other interests.
No,
and as a player, he didn't represent many interests apart from himself, which is. But that was the great thing about him. He's a great individualist. But
one of the questions with cricketers, I do a sort of 20 questions thing, which kind of frames the interview. Some are silly and some are more serious, but. One is, if not a cricketer, what would you have done with your life? One of the early questions, and he said, he used to play football, but he went down the golf route. He reckoned he could have won majors if he'd devoted his attention to golf from an early age, because it's more of a selfish sport, isn't it? You can practice on your own. You don't need people to feed you balls.
No, that's right. That's I can see that. But yes, it is. It's an interesting. I mean, that's the thing with sport. You know, how much of it is team and how much of it is just the push of the individual.
Yeah, I think cricket's unique in that respect, isn't it? In many ways, because it's a team game, but you play it very much in solo roles, don't you?
Yes, I mean, I follow baseball actually as well because and interested in the sort of psychology of batters and how they can cope with the quarter of a second decisions. That, I mean, like Jeffrey brilliantly broke down the whole process of working out what to do with the ball after it leaves the hand of the bowler at 90 miles an hour. The same intrigues me with baseball as well.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the psychology of sport. I think, once you get to a professional level, you are obviously very, very good, aren't you? Yeah, far better than me or you have ever been at cricket and whatever. But what separates the very best are the ones that can deal with it mentally and to take their chances at the key times.
Well, I never made it beyond village, and I never made it to club. So maybe psychologically, I couldn't cope with it beyond village.
I always think though that when you, regardless of what level you play cricket, you can still transplant yourself into the players you're watching doing it professionally and try and understand a little bit what they're feeling at the time, because you've been there to some degree.
I think that's absolutely right. I think that's what's great about it. I mean, that's great about what I adore about watching the game is that you're sitting there with people who aren't that good but know an awful lot, and they know an awful lot partly because they've had some experience of it. I mean, my mother used to play at school and in the 30s and things, and so she adored cricket because she felt. She understood the game because she'd played at the level that she'd played, and likewise with me with the village. I can read the game, I think, reasonably well from 100 yards away. Yeah. Partly because I've had the very limited experience on rubbish wickets that I've had, and so you can I think with a limited amount of experience sort of get under the skin of the sport.
Moonrise is a sports engagement website to allow sports fans to learn from the very best. Get a personal video message recorded for a fan's special occasion. Have a professional cricketer as your next coach by getting video feedback or having a 30-minute conversation with some of the world's best players. Players such as Jimmy Neesham, Colin Munro, Tammy Beaumont, Danny Wyatt, Monty Panesar. Visit moonrisesports.com or go to Moonrise Sports on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Moonrise Cricket, let's play. I'll introduce you to the Cricket Badger listeners. Robert Bathurst, actor and cricket fan. Welcome to the Cricket Badger podcast. We've had two famous fans editions before. We had Graham Lambert from the Inspire Carpets and Neil Foles, the snooker player, on the podcast a few weeks ago, and you're the third in line. And I like to think that I get famous fans on that I have a degree of affection for, and whenever I've seen you on my screen, I've always enjoyed your roles, so it's a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, thanks, James. Thank you.
One of the difficulties with me for doing these famous fans things is I want to dive into your career as an actor, but the premise of the Cricket Badger podcast is obviously talk about cricket. So we'll start with the cricket, and you've obviously hinted at the fact that your mother loved the game and it introduced you to it. But what was it that made you fall in love with cricket? Where did that start?
Well, she may have led me towards the telly when it was on, but I think terrestrial TV. We used to live in Ireland. We used to get the feed, the scratchy black and white live test match feed, and I used to watch it from a very early age. I used to be obsessed by the kit. I remember aged 5 or 6 watching it and thinking, are the boots attached to the pads? I just thought, how does this work? What do they do? So it was very exciting when I went to a school in Ireland which played a lot of cricket, and it was just great. We used to play with these very, very heavy compound balls, and I remember I in the first over I bowled, I got an offie tweaker and hit the wicket with it, and I thought, wow, this is fantastic, I love it. So yeah, no, I was obsessed with it. The style of it and the sort of the whole mystery of it was something that struck me from a very early age.
I think that's it, isn't it? There's so many different levels to cricket and so many different layers to cricket that you can never completely learn the game. There's always something new to discover.
Yes, and there is, and at every level, everybody has their own level, and everybody gets equally exercised about being out at whatever level it is. The temples throb, the anxiety holds, you think, well, I've done 2 good shots now. Where am I going to go with it next? And you get very depressed by your inability, even at the lowest level. So what it must feel like at the test level, goodness knows.
Was there a cricketer that was an inspiration to you? Did you have a poster boy when you were younger, or was it purely with your teammates that you learnt to love the game?
Well, we moved to Essex when I was 9. We moved to England, and like sort of Ray East and J.K. Believer, and it was in the days of Brian Taylor, the wicketkeeper captain of Essex. I used to go down to Loughton Week every summer. At my village, I used to play for Nazing Common, and we had membership there, so I used to sort of go down on my own and watch the whole week of county cricket then. So yeah, it was sort of the Essex team of that era was where my heroes.
Were you like me as a kid? Did you have your autograph book and you were chasing them after the game, or was it just purely from the stands?
I didn't. I remember Stuart Turner at Loughton being out, but somebody often asked him for an autograph as he was coming out, having been out cheaply. I thought, and this autograph guy got the rush. But no, actually autographs. I remember when I was doing a show in Leeds, and after the play, I was talking to somebody who had an autograph book. He was an older man, and he showed me a very old autograph book that he had, and it had Leary Constantine's, the West Indian signature in that. And I said, "How did you get that?" And he said, "Oh, wonderful." He said, I got that because me and my friend got Leary Constantine's autograph in return for carrying his bags back from Headingley to the station. Yeah. I love that.
Is that strange to you as a human being that people like me obviously watch you on the TV screen and think we know you a little bit, and we don't really, do we? Because you're playing a character on the screen and don't know you at all, to be honest.
Well, quite. I mean, a lot of people mistake you for the characters you play, and and all actors think that they're being completely different. And a lot of people say, "Oh, you must be playing yourself." I mean, the middle ground is true, because obviously you look like your character you're playing, but there's all sorts of things you employ which make you kid yourself that you're not playing yourself. And I think acting is, or all art is meant to be now so embodied. It's meant to be, you're meant to be, if you're a painter, you're meant to be sort of painting about yourself. If you're a poet, you're meant to be sort of dredging up the terrible things in your life. And if you're a writer, you're meant to be writing all about yourself. Acting is meant to be all about you. It isn't. It's really, you're just, as an actor, you're just a sort of conduit between the author and the audience. So that's the way some people look at it.
You're best known for your role as David Marsden in Cold Feet. How much of him is you? Because I think he's a great character, and I think he's evolved a lot over the course of the two separate stints of Cold Feet. But how much of you is in that?
Well, I don't know. I've never done that much therapy, so I don't know what I am really. So I don't know. I can't judge. I would say that. I mean, the thing about David is he's sort of epically unself-aware. I mean, he just the audience knows much more about him than he does about himself, and he's. And in order to play him, you can't be that unself-aware. Yeah. You have to be aware of the guilelessness of the character. So you have to be completely aware as an actor to play that sort of complete sort of detachment and inability to realize where he's going wrong. Every decision he's ever made has always gone wrong for poor old David. He does it sometimes for the best reason, sometimes purely selfish. In the early days, he was a sort of harsher character, perhaps. In the early days, he was a sort of Thatcherite boo boy who was the sort of getting sort of older 40-year-old yuppie. Was how I think he was originally drawn. So yeah, I mean, the word sort of chinks of humanity coming in through the series as the first 5 series we did.
I've written some notes ahead of talking to you today, and I've written about David Marsden down here: pompous, well-spoken, vulnerable. Once things done properly, often messes up, which is pretty much what you've just said there, really. But I think that makes him a very likeable character, because you're siding with him as the audience. You're siding with him, but you're watching him go through all of this turmoil.
Yeah, and the pomposity is there, but the pomposity is often from a position of strength, and I think, well, maybe yes, in his own mind, he was coming from a position of strength. So I think you can't. It's very difficult. And what's great about what Mike Bullen wrote was that he allowed the characters to develop and do things which were not part of their character description from the word go. People do evolve, and he allowed the characters to get older for a start, and then evolve in terms of character and be dented by their experience and all that. So how they were at the beginning is one thing, but they were allowed to develop through the 22 years that we've been doing it. I mean, we started, I think, in 1996. We did the pilot, and it came out in 97. So with a gap in the middle, it's a long old stretch.
When you first got together with that cast, because I think it's a brilliantly cast programme, did you sense the chemistry there? Was it automatically you thought, this is going to be good?
Well, the casting was crucial, because what's good about it, and it's in sort of an underrated quality of casting, is that none of us can play each other's parts. If you look at the American version, they did I think ABC or NBC did a version. They took the first series and remade it, and it lasted, I think, about sort of a few episodes, and it got pulled. Is that to some extent, there's a very general point, but to some extent, the actors were sort of interchangeable in some ways. They all sort of stood languorously with their thumbs in their belt loops, and but they didn't seem to have that much distinction. And the casting of Cold Feet was, I couldn't play John's part and Jimmy's, and the same is true with them. So yeah, there was a distinction there, and we were all sort of very different, or different people, different sort of characters, and it was a sort of disparate group of people, but sort of shared history sort of brought it, kept us together, because I mean, my character, David, he was sort of the outsider, and he was only tolerated because everybody liked the Hermione Norris character, Karen. And so you sort of cope with David. You wouldn't normally want to hang around with. But, after years of seeing Karen and David, he sort of became sort of part of it, and sort of shared history meant that there was a sort of solidity amongst in the friendship, which in a way is a sort of very real way of character, of how real friendships can form.
It had its first run, and then it stopped, and then obviously, as you say, it came back again. Was it an easy decision for you all to make to return to the screen and to reignite those characters? 'Cause it was a slightly different challenge, isn't it? You're all older, all got different kind of things going on in your lives as older people, so it had to still remain relevant, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was a good move. It turned out to be a good move. It wasn't necessarily a slam dunk when we started. There was a lot of people were thinking, "Oh, why challenge the memory of this? Why try and recreate something when?" And it wasn't a recreation; it was a development. Mike Bullen felt that there was juice in the characters to show how they were after this 13-year layoff, and the fact that we hadn't been running since then meant that there was an awful lot of sort of history going on in that time, which will have changed us, and not only age but experience. And it was as though the cameras, it's as though Cold Feet, the characters, they'd all been existing, but the cameras hadn't been there, and so the cameras sort of drifted into their lives again. And we've done 4 more years, and the cameras have drifted away again. So maybe in 5, 6, 7 years' time, the cameras will come back and see what these characters are doing and how decrepit they've got, and what life has thrown at them. So yeah, it turned out that it did work because it was of interest to see how these characters have gone on, and we weren't just playing the same old tunes. It was taking into account how life's passage.
I've always enjoyed John Thompson in pretty much everything he's done. Is he as funny behind the scenes as he is when you see him on the TV screen?
John is relentless. I mean, he's. I once. I don't think he liked that very much. I called him the James Dean of comedy, and that he's ribald without a pause. I think he's sort of. He just does. There's nothing you can throw at him that he doesn't riff with. And he will have a comment, an angle. And of course, all the voices that he does. But he's a kind man as well. He's not just sort of endlessly just doing sort of stand up in your presence. But he's a really genuinely funny and enjoyable person. Yeah.
You've worked so hard for all the things you have: the salary, the status, the success. And with that image, there's a drink. One to unwind, one to loosen up, one to take the edge off. But how do you know when a drink is more than just a drink? We get it. We can help. Karen's Grandview program has been helping accomplished people just like you regain their lives. Talk to us. Visit karen.org/Grandview.
Will you get out to India? Have you ever been to an IPL?
I haven't, no, and I nearly went this year. I've been out to Abu Dhabi and Barbados and South Africa and covered cricket in those countries. And I really wanted to go out to India because I think just as a spectacle, because they're just so crazed about the game over there, it'd be quite special. And then when I saw it was going to be in the UAE, I've got some contacts over there, and I was trying to get that trip sorted out, and it just didn't happen because of COVID and various other things. It just didn't happen. And I think in retrospect, it would have been a slightly strange experience because I think because of the bubbles, even if you're in the same hotel as the players, you probably wouldn't be able to get to them to talk to them. So it might have been a slightly disappointing experience, but I'd love to tick the IPL off at some stage. Yeah. Which
grounds? I mean, I'd love to go to Kolkata and something like that. And have you got any grounds on your wish list?
My best friend at school, Santanu, he originates from India and he goes over a lot. He showed me some pictures of his trips over there and the landscapes and things in India. Because you tend to see on TV, you see the cities and the hubbub and the people all together. But if you actually go out into the wild, some of the scenery is just incredible.
And you see some extraordinary sights of, it's sort of all the kids playing on the Maidan and doing all that. I remember going on driving on a high road, looking out over some houses down below, and seeing in the back garden you had a brother and sister playing, with just playing cricket in the back garden, and they had a small plank which they were using for the bat. And the ball was an enamel mug, and which would have turned sharply, I would have thought. And but it was just taking anything and just playing cricket. It was just great to see.
That has a different perspective to hitting the seam, doesn't it? Trying to hit the handle or
hit the handle, exactly. Yeah, beautiful. Yes, look at the rotation on that.
I saw on you did Wild at Heart, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yes,
because I always think when I watch I like Death in Paradise every now and again to watch that, and I always think that must be a great gig as an actor to get a week filming that and go out and sit in the sunshine and see a little bit of the of the country you're getting taken to? Is it as good as
well,
that?
Death in Paradise, I gather from people who've done it, they said that they always they film it off season and it's incredibly hot and sometimes hurricane.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, so it's not great.
So, but the Wild at Heart was great. I was involved in the 7th series of that. Yeah, I spent months out in South Africa and on this game farm. And I managed to see some cricket. I went to Pretoria, saw the Aussies there, and got to the Wanderers and saw some games there, which was really exciting.
Because you originated from Africa, didn't you? You were born.
I was in West Africa. I was in Ghana.
Yeah.
West Africa, not too much cricket there, but I was only 2 when I left. And the school I went to in Ireland, in Kells, Kells, played county cricket. County Meath played county cricket on the school pitch in front of this big house that the school was using, and they only turned up with 10 players. so we were all I was 8, I think, and then our sort of 13-year-old star player was recruited to play county cricket for County Meath and on the school pitch. And it was also the year when Ireland beat the West Indies, got them all out for 26.
Oh yes.
And it was West Indies went into bat after lunch, and it was held at the Guinness Ground. And so I think there was other factors at play.
I saw an interview you did in the Cricketer magazine where you talked a lot about spin. You already hinted at the fact that you got a wicket with your off breaks, and that inspired you to go on to greatness in cricket. Never maybe quite happened, but you're a sucker for a spin bowler, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't tall till I was 16, and I naturally just had a sort of an off spinner, which worked okay, and I could I could sort of try and flight it. I mean, the more I played, it was used to develop that. I never got a good leggy. I just tried, and of course, I just loved it when spinners started taking over tests and having grown up with 4 quicks, 5 quicks, just blasting us out, and then to see sort of Warne and everybody just to dominate a test with spin bowling was just it increased the sort of interest in the sport. It was and the contest. As a member of the Spin Bowling Union, I loved that. So yeah, I mean, John Gleeson and people like that, and Jack Simmons. You push it through a bit, but was still a great spinner, I think. And Underwood, who again was pretty sharp, but was on a sticky dog. He was unbeatable, and he could turn it sideways.
A lot of my younger cricket I watched down at Canterbury when Derek Underwood was coming towards the end, to be honest. But he was just incredible to watch, because I could never work out with Derek Underwood whether he was a medium pace bowler or a spinner, because he came off for about 10 yards and rolled his arm over quite quickly. But that combination of Knott and Underwood was special.
Oh, I agree, absolutely. I adored Al Knott, and Underwood's had a sort of lovely sort of floaty approach, and it's surprisingly quick, of course. I mean, you see, and Alan Knott was his longevity was incredible. I can't remember how many years he did, but and the ball used to just sort of kiss into the gloves. It was just and endlessly doing his stretches and keeping him going. And I love that combination of Knott and Underwood.
It goes back to what we were talking about at the start, doesn't it? About the individual roles within the cricket team. The wicketkeeper is such a specialised role, and if you do it well, it's fantastic to watch, isn't it? Knott, Russell, etc. I
remember seeing Bob Taylor once at Leighton. I had my binoculars on at fine leg, and he was standing up to a quick. I can't remember who it was. I remember this in slow motion. I mean, it happened in a blinking, but and he took the ball down the leg side, which I'm always astounded how keepers can, with instinct, follow a ball after they've lost sight of it. And he took the ball down the leg with his feet off the ground, so it leapt up, and he stumped the guy before Taylor's feet had touched the ground. It was the most beautiful piece of work, which I was so glad I was looking at close up. But yes, I think to see a good keeper, and several of them at the moment. I mean, when people say that was a half chance, and when the keeper has done so well to leap down the leg side for a tickle that's gone down the leg and they've just missed it. They've sort of leapt about 5 yards in order to get it. I don't think you'd ever see Godfrey Evans do that. And so it's it's a fantastic skill. And I was a slip fielder, so I used to love working with really good keepers.
How often do you get to watch cricket these days? Do you get to many games?
Well, I don't see it much on television. I don't have the channel, but and I'm Test is what I go to. I'm not a great one day fan. I don't remember that many one day games. You get sort of excited in the moment, but I remember sort of Tests more. So I don't watch it. I listen to it. I mean, I love the radio coverage of it. And I would like to see more county games. I mean, I can imagine myself in a deck chair at Hove and seeing out my time there long into the future.
There's worse ways to go. I think there's worse ways to go than sitting at home watching cricket.
Quite. Yeah. And I love the whole experience of sitting in a cricket ground. What I hate is when people are just talking and not looking at the game, and that happens too much at Lord's. And when people are just yakking. And but I like it when people are watching the game at 45 degrees. You're talking, but everybody instinctively is aware of every beat of the game and every moment of the game, and everybody's absolutely on it whenever anything happens. But you can still be chatting away, but it's sort of slightly sideways chat. But the main focus is on the match.
You've worked so hard for all the things you have: the salary, the status, the success. And with that image, there's a drink. One to unwind, one to loosen up, one to take the edge off. But how do you know when a drink is more than just a drink? We get it. We can help. Karen's Grandview program has been helping accomplished people just like you regain their lives. Talk to us. Visit karen.org/Grandview.
What you said a few minutes ago about remembering test matches and not remembering one day really strikes a chord with me. I've said that before on this podcast. The example I always give is the 2005 summer when England won the Ashes, and you can pretty much remember every single moment of every single test match through that 5 test match series. But ask somebody to recount the one day series that was part of the same summer. Not very many people would even remember the result of that. I think that says a lot about what Test cricket can give you. The 5 days, the ups and downs, the excitement and the narrative through a summer of a long series, I think is very special.
I'd very happily. I mean, some people can't understand this, but I would very happily sit for all 5 days if I had the time to watch every beat of it. And I really hope that 5 days stays. I mean, I know that there's pressure to reduce it for 4 days, but the matches we had this year with rain interruptions and other things, that the fourth day would have had a very different tone if we'd been having to finish on that fourth day, and it just meant that they could do those old-fashioned, grind them out, massively concentrated, beautifully concentrated innings, which then develop and they can get the big score with it. And psychologically, to be able to hold on to an innings like that and for that length of time. And it's completely absorbing. It's not the Big Bash, but it is much more exciting and much deeper and much more interesting to watch and completely absorbing for those who like it. And of course, for people who just want a Big Bash, then it's as dull as dishwater. But have to accept that. But no, if it's going to be a test, it's a 5-day test. Just gives the players the time to. And there's great big moments that change and how things can develop. And we've seen some extraordinary turnarounds, of course. It does need that 5 days to really give the game a chance to breathe.
Robert Bathurst, I feel like I'm interviewing myself. You're saying everything that I would say. I love 5-day cricket. I think it's fantastic. I do like white ball though as well. I love watching the IPL. I like watching a few of the T20 Blast games as well during the summer. But as you say, I mean, it's a little bit more disposable, that kind of entertainment, isn't it? Whereas a test match, I think, really does stick with you. I mean, to get back into your turf, I always equate them to a 5-day test match being a feature film. The Godfather, Shawshank Redemption, or something really, really special. Whereas a T20 is more like a 30-second advert. You can get very good adverts that you talk about after you've seen them, but they're throwaway, aren't they? I think that's quite a nice way, a kind of analogy, the way of looking at them. A really good test match is like The Godfather, is like the Shawshank Redemption. It stays with you and you want to watch them again.
I think that's a good analogy. I mean, one can't deny the market. The market is for the quicker stuff. But and you just hope. And I mean, of course, I'm over the hill as far as I'm not the market that they're going for. But I agree with you. I mean, I just hope that with the advancements in the game and what the tests have learnt from the one-day game is that. I mean, that extraordinary one against Australia just recently when Matthews, was it? I'm sorry, the guy anyway who was really the last two in, and he built a brilliant innings in sort of test match style, and then went for it in one day style, and so the two styles can combine in test, and the test does owe an awful lot to the one day game in being able to bring off victories like that.
That was the Glenn Maxwell, Alex Carey stand, wasn't it?
Glenn Maxwell, not Matthews. Yeah. Maxwell, yeah. I mean, you just thought, no, surely he can't do this, and he just built it, and he got sort of a few and over, just to kept it going, and then left him in a position where he could just open up.
That is one of the benefits of the white ball stuff, though, isn't it? That some of the things they learn in one-day cricket have made Test match cricket a little bit more exciting at times. We'd never have seen the Ben Stokes heroics at Headingley without one-day cricket, would we?
No, that's absolutely right. No, we have to acknowledge that. I mean, it's easy to be a stick in the mud and say everything about the one-day game is awful. It isn't, of course, it isn't. It's really exciting in the moment, whether you remember it or not. I must say that the new shots in the one-day game, it just made Gully a very dangerous position. You suddenly find yourself on the leg side, and you think, crikey, I don't know what it'd be like to see someone switching and aiming in your direction.
I don't know about you, but when I was playing club cricket, I could hit a ball, but I wasn't exceptional at batting by any means. And when I saw the first dill scoop and somebody's down on one knee, flicking it over their own head, almost parting their hair with the ball as they flick it over the wicket keeper, I thought, it's an achievement for me to get bat on ball, let alone try something like that. Some of the shots they look quite dangerous, don't they?
Well, I'm sure they are, and you just when they go wrong, they go very wrong. I mean, I suppose you wouldn't do those sort of shots if you didn't have a helmet, but it just means that the wagon wheel is extended full 360 really, and now you've long stop is a catching position, whereas it used to be just your long stop was just a crucial because you had a rubbish keeper, so you had to save runs that way.
Yeah, I used to have that.
Standard.
Yeah, we used to have that at school.
I haven't seen a long stop in Test for a while. Anyway.
No. I mean, that's the other thing about one-day cricket and the way cricket has evolved over the last sort of 30, 40 years. Really, is the standard of fielding is just ridiculously good these days compared to go back to the 70s and 80s. They trot after the ball and give up on it halfway, whereas now they fling themselves around, and they batsmen have to really earn the runs these days, don't they?
Yeah, it worries me sometimes they fling themselves even on balls which they are obviously going for four. And I know they play margins for it, which means that when they do really, really go at it, they have a percentage chance of getting it. But there are times when that percentage has gone and they still fling themselves into the rope, over the hoarding, and I just think there's a danger of sometimes some of these people doing a bit too much damage. Don't know how many falls they can take. They have to know how to fall really well. But then I don't play anymore because that the expectation to be running to the boundary and do a sliding stop, and it's lost all its dignity now. So, but the athleticism is fantastic. It's glorious, and the throwing and the picking up and throwing is brilliant. So it just does worry me sometimes that they're in danger of doing themselves in when they do, and they have to be seen to be trying so hard. Of course you do, and you want to tell the bowler you're doing your best, but I think there's a danger of doing yourself an injury whilst you're showboating that and chasing balls which you'll never get. I mean, it used to be, of course, people used to stop it with their foot and then bend down, pick it up, and throw it in. Yeah, so no, they're all really sharp now.
A good example of that was one of the IPL games the other day. Shimron Hetmeyer was, I think, mid-wicket, and the ball was hit well past him, and he just trotted it and kind of almost ran over the ball, and all the rest of the fielders were glaring at him. Why didn't you put in a dive and everything? And that is where we've got to, really, isn't it? Everybody's expected to fling themselves around regardless. And
I remember Gower getting a a fertilizer graze on his arm, which made it inflate, and he sort of flung himself to something, and that, I don't know if that put him off flinging himself, but it's they can do yourself damage, and they have to be as good at falling as a rugby player.
The Gowers and the Randalls that were around in the 70s, 80s, they wouldn't stand out these days, would they? They would be part of a number of fielders of the same kind of caliber. At the time, they were incredible.
I think Gower and Randall would stand out in any team. I just read Derek Pringle's book, Pushing the Boundaries, which was magnificent. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it. It was a fantastically funny anecdote on every single page. I just roared with laughter all the way through it. And his description of Gower and the things that he got up to, and Randall and his quirks, but certainly those sort of characters. I'm sure they do exist, but they were great individualists, and must have been frustrating at times for players. But I think Gower and Randall, you'd want them in any of your teams.
After my heart attack, cash from ActiveCare meant I had choices.
When I had cancer, cash from ActiveCare meant I didn't need to stress so much about money.
What is ActiveCare? ActiveCare is a supplemental health insurance policy that offers protection for covered cancer, heart attack, or stroke, and a choice of cash benefit options from $10,000 to $60,000. If you're diagnosed with cancer, a heart attack, or stroke, you could end up paying thousands of dollars or more in out-of-pocket medical bills. ActiveCare gives you protection at an affordable price. So, get ActiveCare for cash, choice, and control. ActiveCare is brought to you by Colonial Penn Life Insurance Company and is underwritten by Washington National Insurance Company. Visit colonialpenn.com for more information. This is a limited benefit policy. This policy has limitations and exclusions. For costs and complete details of coverage, visit colonialpenn.com.